I made a bet Jesus could be the odds. He can shine through me cause I'm the son of God. Don't feel nobody, I'm rockin' feel God. Can't rob a two cause I ain't feeling God. I made a bet Jesus could be the odds. He can shine through me cause I'm the son of God.
I want to give the people a little bit more of a context to you, Wasi. Like, you're an options trader, and I don't want to limit you to just that. Do you just do options trading, or what more do you do?
I own a few businesses. I work in IT as well. So
So you're multifaceted for the most part.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I want to tackle today, given that you're in options trading, and I dabbled in there a little bit here and there, not as much as you. You big money right now. Yes. So one of the things that I've seen and noticed with people, not just in options trading, but in general in life, is the mindset that they have when they do certain things. It's always short-lived. Like, I've seen some episodes of other podcasts that you did, and it's a common topic that most of you talk about, which is your mindset when it comes to trading. And not even just trading. It comes in everything. When you're starting a new business, when you're in a new relationship, anything new, you have a goal, but there's always that fear that stops people or that hinders somebody's growth whenever they're in anything.
Right.
I want you to talk about your experience, like being in options trading, how you kind of tackled that fear and overcame that so you can be as successful as you are now. You can be as consistent as you are now, and you can make those split-second decisions that can make you a couple thousand. And even beyond that. How did you overcome and tackle that?
So I initially, so to answer your question, really, the whole idea of trading is a situation where you start to reveal who you are, right? So if you're a greedy person, that'll come out in your trading. If you're timid, that would also come out in your trading. So what I've realized, even outside of that, earlier on in life, I realized that how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah,
right?
I actually heard that before. Yeah.
So what that means is that throughout life, all your decision making is going to be tied to your mindset. Right. And so instead of making small incremental changes in your life, you would want to make major changes, because it then, I guess it essentially matriculates through all areas of your life, essentially. Right. So if you're someone that is not confident just as an individual, just in your ability to do anything, then you wouldn't be confident in trading either. Right. And so what I realized is that I was going to have to work on my ability to be confident in my skill set, right? Now, being confident in my skill set then required a lot more of me just than, learning strategies and tactics and things like that. It meant that I had to do more digging into my emotions, like who I am as an emotional trader, right? And then figuring out ways to minimize making decisions that are emotional but not good for me, right? So essentially each step of the way I'm looking at self-correcting, right? Anything that I see within my trading, I then had to now evaluate in my actual life, in my real life outside of trading, and find areas of where I see similar issues or similar errors, and then essentially, seek wisdom as far as how I would be able to correct those things.
I like that, because you said something that I never heard before. You said it in a way where you necessarily didn't focus on the strategies and the tactics to actually make a good trade. You noticed that you had an emotional problem earlier. How did you notice that emotional problem? Was you already going through some personal development journey, or did you have like a coach or mentor that told you that?
Yeah, so I think I was already going through, kind of life, I guess you could say, really, where you can start to identify ways that you can elevate your emotional intelligence. One major thing that my mentor taught me, my mentor Myron Golden, he taught me that.
Oh wow, Myron Golden! Wow, that's fire.
Yeah. He taught me that basically you never want to live a life where you treat contributing factors as determining factors.
Just say it one more time. You never want to treat life.
Treating contributing factors as though they are determining factors. So the difference between a contributing factor and a determining factor is a contributing factor is anything that happens in your life that's outside of you, external. Okay. A determining factor is anything regarding your life that is internal. What that means is, so for instance, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Right. I was at Trader Joe's and I was picking up just some different items in the store, right? And so one of which was a wine bottle, right? So I picked it up and I gave it to the cashier, and she said, "Well, for you to purchase this, I'm going to need to see your ID."
Of course.
Right, because it's typical, behavior. She can obviously see that I'm above age to purchase this beverage, right? Now, for what it's worth, I could have taken that two ways. I could have said, okay, well, I can be frustrated or upset at the idea that she can see that I'm above age, or I can use this as an opportunity to essentially get more cardio in for my day. So leaving the store and running to my car, which is probably a couple feet away, right? I could see that as just an opportunity to have extra cardio in my day. So if I'm thinking to myself, the determining factor is within me. I can decide that this situation can ruin my day potentially. Being offended, essentially, right? You see that I'm above 21. I should be able to do this without you asking me for my ID, right? At least as far as just normal courtesy, I guess you could kind of say, or grace for what it's worth. So, being in real time and essentially just walking with a certain level of joy where I'm not easily offended, right? Now that determining factor within me decided to change my day. So I'm no longer accepting feelings of offense, right? Which would be negative for me. I'm instead deciding, okay, I can just decide that this is going to be something that's good for me, right? Which cardio obviously is good for you, right? Maybe it is, it might, for the normal person, it might seem like, well, now I have to expend more energy that I didn't want to expend. It's a long walk.
I don't want to do this. I don't want to go back to my car. Right. I just want to get this. Get it out.
Yeah. I'm in a rush. Things like that. So, that's essentially the idea of it. A contributing factor would be, this is going to ruin my day, and now my day's done. Versus, this is something that could actually benefit me, and because I decided to change my idea of what that scenario was for me, I now reap the positive benefits of that.
So say that saying one more time that Myron Golden told you.
So you would never want to go through life treating contributing factors, which are external, as though they are determining factors, which are really internal.
Because determining factors is really the ones that really affect you, not contributing factors.
Correct.
People always say focus on things that you can control versus what you can't control.
Exactly.
The contributing factor is it's a protocol that you have to follow for her to ID you,
right.
But you can either take offense, which is the determining factor, to let it ruin your day, or put you to put you in a reactive state, not a responsive state.
Exactly.
I like that. And if I'm being honest, that is a hard thing to do.
Yeah, it is.
It's easier said than done.
Yes.
Because I feel in that, and sometimes I still fall into that where I'm looking at things from a self-centered way. I'm looking at things from how can it benefit me and only me, and what I want to avoid. And I'm realizing that when me wanting to avoid something is me going against protocol of the world or of the environment that I'm in. And I had to realize, why am I taking offense when I'm going against something that was written, something that is practically law at that point.
Yeah.
And when I had to look at it from, like, give an example, like when I was younger, going against my parents because I wanted things to be in my benefit versus theirs.
Right.
But it's like, the Bible says honor your parents.
Yeah.
Why am I doing that when I'm going against protocol? You feel me?
Right.
So it's like, it's a tough pill to swallow, but you won't. For me, it never really clicked until somebody was close to me told me, you lacked maturity in that sense. You don't have maturity.
Yeah.
And I used to think maturity was. And, maturity can show in many different avenues, from maturity in business, maturity in relationships, you name it.
Yeah.
But maturity overall, especially when it comes to offense, because you can take offense in each and every one of these things.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I like maturity, and he put me under somebody to learn, and he told me, yo, I take offense too much. And it's like, yo, you need to work on this, because if you don't have this, everything else will crumble.
Right.
And I've seen everything else crumble for the same thing, offense. I took offense with my parents. I took offense with this relationship. I took offense in this and that. So moving forward, like, you've seen that you had to work on your emotions in that sense.
Yeah.
What was the things, like, for me, what took me to learn how to manage my emotions was the Bible, or somebody telling me, or getting guidance. Did you always have that emotional intelligence, or what would you say? You mentioned that you're on a personal development journey. What was that road that you had to take, or tools or resources that you used to learn how to overcome those emotions, so you can trade better, you can operate in your other avenues of life a little bit better?
That's very simple. I mean, for most of my life, I felt like I did have control, but then there were things that started to occur in my life that started spiraling out of control, at least out of my own control.
What do you mean?
Right? So what I mean is that, okay, well, I purpose to do things like, get good grades in school, especially early on, right? So you do that. All right, now, you go to college. You get to the college that you desire to go to. I graduated from Howard University in D.C., right?
Correct.
So, regarding, going through school, like, that was something I purposed. Then the next thing was, okay, now it's time to get a job, and then I get a job, right? So it's like, those things start to occur, but then, it got to a point where things in my life kind of spiraled out of turn, at least out of what I thought they would be, and so that really, and I started to see my emotions dwindle. I had a bit of a financial downturn that caused me to really just do a lot of self-seeking, like a lot of self-discovery, self-analyzing, figuring out what exactly went wrong and how I can move to the next level and stop hitting my head at the same ceiling.
How was that self-seeking journey for you? Like, what was that thing that felt as if you was going against the grain? Like, what was that thing for you?
Well, really, it was regarding getting to the next level in finances after leaving my 9 to 5.
Getting to the next level?
Getting to the next level in finances after leaving my 9 to 5. So, the whole idea was, okay, I'm making this certain amount of money, and it's, pretty decent. But I just feel like there were greater levels of impact that I was looking to have for myself, for my family, for the community, really. I just felt like I just always knew that there was greater out there for me. So I was achieving levels of success, but just not to the degree that I believed at the time that God put me on this earth to be able to accomplish.
I like that you said that you knew there was greater.
Yeah.
So did you always have, like, that wanted me to back things up a little bit. Did you always see yourself as being financially free beyond the white American dream, white picket fence house? Like, you always saw that?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and thank God for my parents, really, because they set the tone with it. Both of my parents had a season of their life that they worked 9 to 5, but then moved into entrepreneurship.
Oh,
so
that's
I was
fire.
able to see, my mom owned a daycare, my dad was in real estate. So, like, I was able to see, my dad actually found the building that my mom eventually turned into a daycare, right? And he actually gifted that to her on her birthday.
That's fire.
Yeah,
Congrats.
So this was like, and this we're talking about 20 plus years ago, right? But this was my foundation as far as what I was watching, what I was seeing. I'm watching my dad making moves. I'm seeing him impacting people. We had people coming from Nigeria coming to live with us for periods of time. I'm watching him provide for them. I'm watching him do more than just whatever it is he needed to do just for us in the house.
Yeah.
And so I grew up with the paradigm of, okay, I should be doing a lot. Like, I should be providing. I should be, doing things that, are past just, providing for myself. Right. So I already had that understanding. So even early on in life, like, I always had like this spirit of giving, where if it wasn't money I was giving, I was always lending advice to people, in order for other individuals to be able to grow and things like that. So
seeing that you said that, where you always knew you deserved more in a sense, what does faith look like for you?
Faith for me looks like
what does it look like, and how would you define it?
Faith looks like believing in what God said and acting on it.
Believing in what God says and acting upon it. Give me a little more. Like, what do you mean by believing in what God says and acting upon it? Like, what is acting upon it, and what is believing upon it?
Well, Scripture says that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. Right.
Yeah.
So, for me, what I'm able to hope for is based off of what God says in His Word.
Yeah.
Right. So acting that out simply means that I believe what I'm reading in Scripture, right, in the Bible, and essentially putting it into practice, right? So that's what faith is for me.
I like that, because what I recently learned about faith, and I heard this message a year ago, but I recently watched over this message from my spiritual father, and he basically said that faith is current. It's not in the future.
Yeah.
So faith is something now, and it can only operate on something now or something past, because you have to operate in something that's already done. Like, you can't have, like, he gave me this, he gave us this example. For you to have faith in a house, you have to believe that the house is already there.
Right.
You can't have doubt that, what if that? You have to operate in it already being done, and your actions, like what they say, faith without works is dead. So you have to put in the works as if it's already done, and you need to be doing what needs to be done in order for it to happen. Okay, you have faith that you're going to get a house, but it's not going to come without you doing anything. Right. You have to operate every day, managing your finances right, following the plan to get a house and operating what's done. But what he said, that faith, it's not by itself, because like in the word says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, and then hope is what the future is for you.
Right.
So it's like you hope that you're going to be in this stage in life, be in that stage in life, whatever you're hoping for.
Yeah.
And that faith is that it's already done, and you're operating in that motion of it's already being done. And when I learned it in that perspective, it's like when you're trading. You can't operate in faith and then have doubts and then not do what you need to do, not make knowledgeable trades, not learn what you're supposed to be learning, because at the end of the day, if you operate in that type of sense, it's like if you operate against that, you, like you said, you operate in emotions. You operate and make bad trades. You will lose money, and you will lose all these things, and it's like, for what point? For what point?
Right.
So I wanted to ask you this. What was a time that you noticed yourself, like it could be you trading, it could be you even beyond that, where was a time where you seen yourself going against that faith, and how did you correct yourself?
Typically, going against, that's a great question. I think regarding trading specifically, going against faith is essentially giving up. So there are times that I felt like giving up trading, right? There are times I felt like, man, this isn't for me. And I felt like that was me going against faith, because I felt like
that's that doubt.
I felt like this was a part of what I was supposed to continue to become, not even just from a profitability standpoint, but also as an educator, right? I felt like this was something I should be continuing to educate people on. So if I quit doing it myself, obviously I wouldn't be trusted to still educate people. right? So I feel like that was a big part of going against the grain. But appearing like taking losses and not believing in yourself, not being confident in the markets, based on your skill set and your proficiency, like that's essentially going against the grain too. Because what ends up happening is that doubt starts to linger, and obviously faith and doubt can't exist in the same space, right? And so that's kind of how I saw that. And a lot of my correction, I would say, as far as like my behavior and my frame of thought and my thinking pertaining to who I am, began to transform when I started to envision the idea that God actually lives in me, right? The idea of being a creator, the idea of essentially being in alignment with how powerful your expectation can be, right? Because your expectation is really your superpower, but it's really the idea that God has given us our abilities to be able to accomplish whatever it is we need to accomplish. But there are two things we need to master. One is finding the system that would allow us to become successful in whatever arena we're looking into, and then also finding out the mindset you need to not have. Right, so it's two things.
I like that.
You need to be on the offense and the defense.
So you said you need to find the system that works for you to live the life that you want to live for yourself.
To get the results you want.
To get the results you want.
Yeah.
And you need to master the type of mindset to not have.
To not have. See, you want to know what's so powerful? You want to know what's so powerful? You want to know what's so powerful?
Jesus.
You want to know what's so powerful?
Yo.
Your never is usually more powerful than your always.
Say that. You said your never is usually more powerful.
Your never is usually more powerful than your always.
What do you mean by your never?
Okay. If you say you're never going to do something, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's usually more powerful of a emotion, right? Than you saying you're always going to do something. Because think about it, right? Think about the things that you said you'll always do. Have you always done them?
That's true.
Now, think about the things you said you'll never do. If you said you'll never rob, have you ever robbed a bank?
I never robbed the bank.
You never robbed a bank.
Yeah.
But you've told yourself you'll never rob a bank potentially before.
Yeah.
You've told yourself you'll never do something, and you've never done it. There's a lot of things you said you'll never do that you've never done.
But I'm never gonna go back to this, and I never go back. I never go back.
Right. I mean, there's sometimes that we do.
Yeah, that's where you're
being stubborn.
Short. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, things that you told yourself you'll never do typically are more powerful of an emotion for you to actually carry out than things you say you'll always do.
So why is it like that?
Think about it.
Like I noticed that. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, yo, that is true. Like if I say I'm always gonna wake up early at 5, when was the last time I woke up at 5? Right.
But there's because I think it's more so about identity, right? Because there's things in our identity that we know we can never align with. Now, the idea of always doing something it relies on our consistency. See, a lot of times we're not as consistent in actually doing something. We're typically more consistent in not doing something.
That's true.
Think about that.
It's almost like we have the ability to to trust in not trusting, than trust in trusting.
Exactly. So now, having that understanding, now what we do is we use that as our superpower. We say, okay, now I'm going to adopt beliefs that I should never believe. Think about it this way. I now never can. I've accepted the idea that I can never believe that trading is not for me. What does that now do?
That's a strength, and I like
that. That's more powerful
than
than saying I'm always going to be a trader.
I'm always going to be a trader.
Right?
I like
me saying I'm never going to give up is more powerful than me saying I'm always going to be a trader.
I like that you said that, because I told myself recently that, because I used to be a realtor, but I use realtor as a stepping stone for something else.
Right.
But it's in real estate. People thought I left real estate. I told them, yo, I'm never going to leave real estate. I'm just not a realtor anymore. But it's like, yo, looking at it from that lens, it's like like that never really stands strong.
Yes.
That I'm always gonna be this.
Right.
That's freaking crazy,
Yeah.
bro.
So that's why you need to master both sides. See, when the word says faith without works is dead, we're only thinking about our doing. We're not thinking also about our believing. Right? Because if you believe that you're never going to do something, that's also a doing. It's just doing by omission. That's really deep right there. That's really deep right there. But what I'm essentially saying is,
doing but not believing.
I'm gonna give you an even better example. That this is gonna permeate for everybody. It's gonna really settle in this whole concept of how never is more powerful than always. Right. Okay. Now let's think about give me a billionaire. Give me a name for a billionaire.
Grant Cardone.
Grant Cardone. Okay. For Grant Cardone, let's talk about potentially just the average American versus a Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone has beliefs that he'll never do something that the average individual is doing. Which is why he's Grant Cardone. Right? Which is why he's who he is, at least from a from a financial standpoint, right?
So he has belief that
there's beliefs of never that he has that the average American is actually doing on a day-to-day basis. That's how he's able to separate himself, right?
That's true. Now,
if he ever comes to some sort of financial ruin, potentially, right? Let's say he has a bad investment and loses all his money, right? How quickly do you believe that he can get back to becoming a billionaire?
Because it's part of him already.
It's part of him already, right?
Of him, yeah.
What's part of him though?
The beliefs.
The beliefs.
Yeah, it's like you can't take what somebody you can't, like, my spiritual father says all the time. They can take your money, they can take this, but they can't take your mind.
Right.
So as long as you learn what you need to learn and you kept it and you kept that consistency, doesn't matter if it goes away randomly. Like with Job, it'll come right back because of the character you hold.
Right.
Because of your identity.
Right.
Like Job lost everything. He still didn't go against God. He still didn't lose his faith.
Right.
But he still stayed true to his identity, and look, he got a double portion of everything.
Right.
That's like an example of us in life. Like, we have to have these beliefs that strengthen us. And like you said, we have to have that ability to master the mindset we should not have in order for us to receive that double portion in life.
Right.
We don't know what avenue it might come in.
Exactly. So think about it this way, right? Now, if Grant Cardone has to now come back up, you did this, which means what? Fast, quick, right? Now, how do we know it's quick? It's not just the fact that it's what he's believing, it's also what he's deciding what his never is. Because getting somewhere quick is relying on what? It's relying on the idea of focus.
Say that again. Getting somewhere quick.
Getting somewhere quick relies on focus. Can you be distracted and get somewhere quickly?
No, not at all.
It requires focus. Now, you work with cameras, right? When you're focusing in on something, what are you doing? Are you adding or are you subtracting?
When you're focusing on something?
Yes.
When you look at cameras, it's give or take.
Think about it this way. When you're focused on something,
you want to focus on a target. Yeah.
If the lens is focusing on something, is that by addition? Is what it's focusing on?
It's by subtraction, because you're subtracting the background, you're subtracting everything to focus on one focal point. Yeah.
So what's subtraction? What's another idea of subtraction here? Never.
I like that. Because it's on the negative spectrum, but you're using that negative in a positive way.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So with focus,
I like that.
You see how it's all coming together?
Yeah, I like that.
The idea of focusing on something allows us to get there quickly. But with focus, you need to eliminate distraction.
So how do you eliminate distraction? Like, one thing that I've learned was setting boundaries for yourself.
Right.
And like setting boundaries in a way where it's like a contract.
Yeah.
Like, I have a list of all these things that I have boundaries for. For social media, I don't have social media download on my personal phone because I'm going to be on it too much.
Right.
I don't download video games because I know when I'm in something, I'm focused and I'm on something, and I'm only
right.
focusing on that. When I can't have my focus split constantly, because then it's not going to allow me to move or operate with the creativity that I should be operating in. Because, for example, and I don't want to go too big on a tangent, if I'm focusing on real estate, investing, finding properties to invest, but then I'm distracting myself by playing video games or goofing off or partying, I'm not going to be as sharp. So when I get back into it and I see an investment, I'm not going to have that grit or that edge where it's like, okay, that's an investment, that's a goal, I could act on that now.
Right.
It's going to take me longer to get back into that flow state.
Exactly.
So those boundaries help me stay in that level of focus till I reach a certain level where now it's subconscious.
Yeah.
Because I believe focus, you can have focus up until a certain point where it becomes subconscious. Now you don't really need to focus, you're just doing at that point.
Right.
You're just second nature. Like with Grant Cardone, it becomes second nature, where if you lose everything, I'm gonna just do this, do that, and it's nothing for you because it's subconscious now. But for the average person, it's gonna take them years, or they have to have those same type of beliefs that he has in order for it to become subconscious in that type of level. That's how it is for me. How would you remove distractions for yourself?
So I think we all know what our distractions are typically, right? For me, I think we all do, right? Here's the easiest way to identify what a distraction is, right? And this is what I learned from my mentor, Myron. He says that a distraction is anything that does not move the needle in your favor. What does that mean? Anything that I do that is not moving me closer to my goal is a distraction innately, right? That's literally a distraction. If it's not something that's moving me to my goal, then where is it moving me? Away from my goal, which is why it's a distraction. So we all know what our distractions are, right? It's just that typically we rely on being busy physically in order to neglect being working on our mental. Because typically working on our mentals is what allows us to actually get to the destination that we want to go to. So instead of that, we focus on getting busy physically. So what that looks like is watching TV, right? Playing on our phone, doing just different activities physically that take us away from the mental work we actually need to do to figure out our solution. So that's how I would identify or say, talk about what a distraction is.
So how do you deal with burnout in that sense? Like you're on go. You understand distractions.
Yeah.
Move the needle against your favor. How do you balance like living a life that you would want to live? And I'm not saying, hey, you have to watch movies, or watching movies is what's gonna help you relax and decompress. But what is your method to, I guess the word is being well balanced and moving the needle forward, but still enjoying life and not burning yourself out? Like, what does that look like?
So there's two ideas. Number one, I think burnout is something that we definitely need to avoid. But one thing I don't want us to do is glorify the idea of balance, right? And the reason why is this. If you're in a season of focus, then you're essentially out of balance. Think about, again, go back to the lens.
But what is balance?
So what balance typically looks like for people is exerting the same amount of energy from a standpoint of all the things you're doing in life, right? That's what most people identify the idea of balance.
What is your how do you identify balance?
Well, that's how I would see it. Essentially,
I believe in something else.
Okay, go ahead.
I believe, and what you're saying is right. I'm not discrediting you, but the idea of balance is, it's like looking at it as like a teeter-totter. One is higher than the other.
Right.
You're focusing on one thing, but you're saying no to the other thing.
Right.
So it's more or less, balance is, you need to understand what you're saying no to and what comes with that. What emotions is going to come with that, what emotions you have to feel through in order to get to that other side of that threshold. It's much like you're just now on a personal development journey.
Yeah.
And you're you're used to partying, you're used to enjoying yourself, you're used to operating in pleasure. But I'm sure you heard this saying where the road to hell feels like heaven and the road to heaven feels like hell. Of course, when you're operating in from a personal development standpoint, you're not going to feel good. It's not going to feel like how you was partying and how you was operating from pleasure. But it's not until you understand that you're saying no to pleasure, you're saying yes to this, and this is what comes with it. This is what comes with focusing on options trading. This is what comes with focusing on my emotions and learning and moving forward in life. And this is what I'm saying no to, which is the enjoyment, the pleasure, the relaxing, the TV, the video games, whatever that is for you. That's what balance is. It's knowing what you're saying yes to and knowing what you're saying no to.
How you're identifying balance is how I would identify focus.
Okay.
Balance to me would look like I am also doing this, and I'm doing purpose and pleasure. That's what most people believe the idea of balance is. It's like, oh, I just worked all this while. Now I'm gonna go and have fun and do,
that's balance for you.
That's what most, I would say, most people
Gotcha.
idea. So what I'm thinking, what you're saying is essentially focus, meaning I'm so focused on a situation that I'm placing my priority on doing one thing and saying no to everything else. Because what's essentially happening with focus is it's purpose oriented. Focus is purpose oriented. Balance is not is not purpose oriented in my opinion, right? And when I say that, what that means is if you're looking to achieve a goal, you're not necessarily too focused on things that are not your goal, right? So if you're focused on your goal, you're not focused on going to parties, going to clubs, doing different things like that. You're not focused on those types of things, right? And but for most people, they would say, oh, well, have a little fun, right? That's the idea of what most people think balance is. Have a little bit of fun.
Yeah. Why
are you working so hard, right? Like someone that would, let's say, for instance, if you've been awake for the last 24 hours because you've been editing something, and somebody taps you on your shoulder like, come on, have a little balance in your life. Don't you want to have fun? That's what most people see the idea of balance is. Like I said, when I heard everything you just said, that to me sounds like focus. Right? So we're really in agreement. It's just what we're calling it. It's just what we're calling it. You see what I'm saying? So what you're saying, I believe, is that you're balanced in being focused. That's how I'm hearing what you're saying. Not necessarily balanced, right? Is that you're balanced in being focused, meaning you know what you need to do in your life to stay in the feeling of focus. And that's what I'm hearing you saying.
Man.
Yeah,
it is a fight. Like you can have a streak, but you have to be okay that when you fall, just get back up.
Well, so here's what I think. So when you're in a season of focus, that doesn't mean you're not resting. So a lot of people think, okay, when you're focused, it just means you're just clambering your head against the wall. No, what you're doing is you're creating a system around how you know you're going to be completing your goal.
And the thing
that's the whole idea of that.
And the thing is, people go against that system, and the results that show is like they get mad at the results,
right?
But it's like, yo, you went against the system.
You didn't have the discipline.
You knew you have to wake up, you have to journal, you have to do this. You know that's what you need personally, speaking to yourself, to set your foundation. For somebody else, it could be different.
Yeah,
you know you have to do this to set your foundation.
Yeah,
you don't do that. Now, how you move throughout your day, it's not ideal because you never set that foundation.
Exactly.
And then how you end your day is you have a certain system for that, but you don't even do that.
Exactly.
So now you don't even start your next day, and it's a repeated cycle. But it's not until you realize this and you have the discipline to really get back on track.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, you just have to break the cycle, and
break the cycle and keep the chain links.
Yeah,
don't break the chain.
Yeah, it's really about creating the system, and also your belief system is really going to allow you to live what I would call an automatic life. Your belief system. Okay, so those two things. This is what Myron taught me, which is essentially find out everything about the individual or the result that you're looking to attain, and only do that, and then find out the inverse of that and never do that. So it's essentially a life study. You're essentially saying there's thoughts and beliefs that I should never have. And then there's also thoughts and beliefs and things that I should be doing that I need to always commit to.
I like that.
That's how you get. That's how you get that result.
I never thought from a perspective on, like, whenever I research something and I found an interest in something, I would research on how to do it. But I never researched on what not to do. Of course, I would learn what not to do from the mistakes I've made in this, but why not study that so when you get into it, you'll be that much more prepared.
Correct. Yeah,
I like that.
It's and for what it's worth, what it's worth, right? It's the separation. The separation, I would believe, is not only in what you're doing. I would say more separation occurs of what you're deciding not to do. More of the separation occurs in what you're deciding not to do. For instance, would you agree that let's just use a hypothetical scenario, right? Let's talk about the idea of two individuals that are both looking to have some sort of fitness journey where they're having either weight loss or even just gaining muscle, whatever the case is, right? So both individuals are always in the gym, right? Both individuals are always in the gym. They do the same workouts. However, one person's belief is that they should only feed themselves food from the ground, right? Which is food from God. The other individual believes that it's also okay to eat food from man. Processed food. Now, you do the thinking. Who do you believe would be much more physically fit as a result of the thinking of what not to eat or what to eat?
Well, not the guy who says, I'm going to eat only food from God. Because
Exactly.
he knows what not to eat.
Exactly.
And I like that you said that because I thought of it in a total different way with the people in the gym. I thought of it in a way where one person can say, I'm always going to go to the gym 3 days a week.
I love where you're going.
The method that I had recently on my fitness journey, and I would say I'm the other person, is I'm never going to go a week where I don't hit the gym 3 times.
There you go.
And because I said I'm never going to miss that, I've been more consistent on keeping that.
Thank you.
Than, hey, I'm going to make sure I go to the gym 3 times a week.
Right.
Because it's like, I get to the end of the week, it's like, oh, damn. I have 2 more days left, and I have 2 more times to work out, so I need to go to the gym these 2 days.
Exactly.
I don't care if it's before church.
Exactly.
Because that never weighs a lot more. You're using that negative in your favor. And
Right.
I like that.
Right.
I like
and
that.
I wouldn't even say never is a negative, because never is actually a positive. It's more so not necessarily just in action. It's more so in inaction typically. Right. You're never typically in inaction, so you're not doing something. Right. So it's not necessarily a negative in that perspective, but you want to see, I mean, because a coin has both sides. So if you don't want the results of somebody else, then you have to remember that it's important to not do what they're doing. It's not just in doing things that they're not doing. It's also not doing what they're doing. Right. So if you're not eating the food that people who are obese are eating, then it's impossible for you, literally obese. Impossible for you to inherit the result that they do.
Yeah.
Think about it that way. We're thinking about, like, you deciding you're never going to rob a bank. It's impossible for you for a cop car to roll up on you and say, we have your name. We saw that you went into this place and you robbed this thing. Come with us to the station.
It's impossible.
You never have to worry about inheriting those results.
Yeah, they can give you a gun, give you the bag, give you the mask. You're not going to walk
exactly.
in the bank.
You never have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. So for people that are worried about or thinking about a situation that they're currently dealing with, whether that's financially in a relationship, whether that's emotionally with family, whatever, if there's a result that you see that you're continuously getting, start to think about, flip the coin on the other side. It might not be what you're currently doing. Like, it might not be in the actions that you're deciding to change. It might be, the problem might be something that you're doing, right? That you should start today to decide that you should never do, right? It could be just the idea of omitting something, not necessarily adding something new, right? So people think, so for instance, I see a lot of people. I used to be the person, again, I'll use the gym scenario. I used to be the person that struggled in the gym. I'm in the gym for a week at a time, a month at a time, right? A couple weeks, a couple months go by, I start to burn out. I don't feel like going to the gym no more, right? I started to ask myself why, like, if losing weight means, or being fit means just going to the gym, like, why do I not have the results I'm looking for? But then I started to do a study. Okay, what type of food are these individuals eating that are so fit that when they get to the gym, they actually are getting the results they want? Do you know what I started to discover? I started to discover that even the food that I ate would convince me whether going to the gym was something I wanted to do or not.
Because of the food that you ate? Wow.
Think about it. Ending my night on a salad changes, because here's the thing. People believe that your body only has one brain in your head. Your body actually has two brains. Your brain here and your brain in your gut.
Oh, I was thinking hard. Wow.
Your brain in your gut. Your brain in your gut. What happens when you're hungry?
Dang, man, I need to get something to eat.
Okay, but what happens to your head?
It focuses.
If you haven't had food in a few days,
you're gonna focus on food.
What's happening to your head? You potentially have a hunger headache. Mm-hmm. Have you ever had a hunger headache before?
I actually never had a hunger.
You never had a hunger headache before? Typically, people that if you've been hungry for a long period of time, your brain starts to feel like, wait, I have a headache. Like, you're not functioning properly, potentially, right? Your faculties just really aren't, especially when you're hungry. So that essentially tells you that your brain and your gut are essentially connected. Now, for me, what I realized was the food I was eating was telling my body how to feel. If I ate food from the ground, God's food, that actually gave me more energy to wake up the next morning. True. Right? Now, if I ate processed food, right, food that my body doesn't recognize, then it's gonna be harder. My body's expending too much energy to even get up. Now I don't even feel like waking up on time to get to the gym.
That's a nice perspective.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's nice.
It's more than a perspective. It's actually facts. Right?
It is facts, but I never thought about it in that sense. Where processed food, you have to put a lot more work, and they make you feel like
think about this conceptually. When you're eating processed food, you're eating the process. I know that sounds very simple.
Oh my God.
I know that sounds very simple, but the problem is the food that we eat is actually, like, think about it this way. The food that we eat, well, for the food that most people are eating, I would say, right, which is processed food, is actually changing our brain, like That's our faculties,
That's
right?
True.
If you see a label that says natural flavor, anything that says natural flavors, how come we never ask ourselves, what is that? What ingredient is natural flavors? If you look at like something like Simply Lemonade, the ingredients say natural flavor on it. What exactly is natural flavor? If you pick up an orange, do you need to inject an ingredient of natural flavor inside the orange? You don't, right?
Yeah, you don't.
So what's the purpose of that natural flavor? Is that natural flavor actually doing something positive to allow me to have greater nutrition value in my body? No. What is it doing? It's doing something to my mind. Because once I drink the lemonade, my mind is telling me that I'm drinking lemons that are juiced, even though they're not.
And then you're going to even like the real lemon or the real juice from the real fruit.
You're not getting the real stuff. So now your body's a science experiment. And so once you're ingesting all of these things, now you're asking yourself, why can't I get up in the morning? Well, your body doesn't even recognize what you just put into it. So how vibrant is your body going to decide to be by the time you get up?
That's
so
real.
I say all that to say this, right? That was me in my study, thinking to myself, how do I differentiate myself from where I am at that current time, where I was about 235 pounds, to where I am now, which is about 180 pounds? How do I get to change? How do I get to become two different people? Thanks, man. I appreciate that. How do I get to differentiate those two different people? Because both people went to the gym,
but
the difference was my never. I decided to never. Right, I decided to never do things with my diet now. Right, I decided I stopped eating some different types of foods. Right, for Like, because I started to understand what those foods are actually doing to me.
I like that.
Right?
So
it wasn't just lifting more weights. It wasn't running more. I didn't have to do more things. All I had to do was continue what I was doing, continue my lifestyle, right? But just decide to cut, right? Decision, right? The word decision means to decide, right? To decide. Decision, decide. The word decide means to cut. Side, it means cut.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So when you're making a decision, you're cutting off all other things.
I like that.
You see what I'm saying?
I like that.
Your decision is not just picking something. It's not choosing.
You're cutting off the other.
Deciding is D, because we understand the prefix D. D-E. It means to, right, to separate.
Yeah.
Side
Division,
is cut.
just side, yeah.
Exactly, right? So the word decision is to cut off all things. So when we decide to be a believer, when we decide to believe in Christ, we're cutting off the world and deciding to be with him.
And then the most dangerous place to be is in that in between, where you're hopping from one side to the other, not just in Christ, but even in life. If you're hopping from this to that, it's like I feel like the reason why people don't have identity, thank you, Holy Spirit, is because they're constantly deciding from one end or the other.
Exactly. That's really I mean, the Bible talks about a man being unstable in all his ways, being double-minded. You're unstable on your ways. And then, the idea of being lukewarm, right?
Yeah, that's the most dangerous place. Lukewarm.
So you can't, you got to make a decision. Everybody's going to need to make a decision, and that decision is about everything in life, So, those are decisions that you're going to have to make. Deciding to stop doing something, deciding to cut off is going to allow you. And again, it's all about the idea of, I had that, it was just a small epiphany when I was like, okay, the reason why I've never been to jail for robbing a bank is because I just don't have the belief that robbing a bank is going to benefit me, or robbing a bank is something that's noble, right? Now, somebody that does rob a bank has that belief. So then they inherit the consequence of that belief.
So how do you manage that belief better, where you choose things that actually benefit you and are moral?
I go all the way. You go all the way with your thinking on consequences. Every action has a reaction. So every instance in life, you have to go all the way with considering the consequences of it. The consequence of going to the gym all the time is that you're going to get fit. That's the consequence. You're going to get fit. If you're in the gym all the time.
It's crazy because you said consequences. I was looking for something negative.
Right. Think about it.
But it's like, the consequences doesn't have to be negative.
It doesn't.
And I'm like, that's crazy. That's why I started laughing.
We're doing mind shifting
wow.
now. I call it mind bending.
Like,
this is what I call mind bending, where you transform what would be the cultural norm for things, because the definition is still the same.
Yeah.
A consequence is really just the action of a reaction, or a reaction of an action, right? So when you go to the gym, this is what's going to happen. If you eat real food from the ground, you are going to lose weight. Your body is a system.
Yeah.
The best part about it, I think, about life is that your body is a willing spirit. So when you decide to get your act together in whatever realm of life you would want it to go, your body's going to go with it. It's going to allow you to accomplish those things, right?
I like that.
So because, when God created us, he said we're good, right?
Yeah.
He said this is, after the 7 days, he said, everything he created is good. So if that's the case, okay, here's another thing about nutrition. I started to do a thought process, I started to do more thinking on this study. Okay, Adam was not obese. And there's no difference between us as man, as human, than Adam. Right?
Yeah, as far as
Think about that.
In a way, yeah.
So all I would have to do is just adapt Adam's nutrition so that I'm not obese. So now all I do is just focus on foods that Adam can recognize. I told my little brother asked me one time, he texted me, he was like, man, what's your diet like? What are you doing now? I said, because it all depends on your thinking.
I only eat what Adam recognizes.
It all depends on your thinking. I said only focus on eating food that Adam can recognize. That's a decision. What am I doing? I'm cutting off what? Everything that Adam what? Does not eat.
Do you eat corn?
Or did not eat. So corn, I don't really eat corn.
Yeah, I was gonna say because corn is man-made. It's like
exactly. Well, I mean, as much as possible, right?
Of course, of course. I'm not saying you're perfect, but it's like, but now my mind is working in that way. What will he recognize? So it's like, okay, I'm gonna operate and flow nothing but that. I like that.
But it's the mindset where now it's set on that.
Yeah.
I'm set on thinking every time I'm about to put food in my mouth, I think to myself, wait, does Adam recognize this? If I'm about to eat a fruit snack, could Adam look at this and put it in his mouth and call it food?
So
those are the questions I ask. Then I also ask myself, other living organisms, what are they doing? Are other living organisms, when they digest food, are they eating food that they created, or are they eating food that was created for them? When you're out in the trees, what are the trees eating? The sunlight.
Water.
Right? Water. You know, all the other living organisms are depending on things that were created for them, not things that they created in order to feed themselves.
So my last question for you today is, out of everything, how do you maintain that? Yeah, you said you operate in the never. Yes, you made a decision and you focus on your one side on that aspect. Is that just it for your method to just maintaining that, or what else is there to
it? It's a reward system. Like when I go into the mirror and I see the results of
my boy's like
I'm just saying, like when you start to see the results of your thinking,
you feel good.
It encourages you to keep going.
Yeah.
Right? Think about it. And like I said, you start to even adapt for instance, you talked about the idea of 5 a.m. I wake up almost every morning at 4 a.m., either at or before 4 a.m. Right? Now, if you were to ask me between the years age 20 and age 29, how many times I woke up at 4 a.m., I would probably be able to count them on maybe one finger. On one hand. Really? Now, literally throughout the last 2 years or so, this has been something I've been doing every single day.
What time do you go to bed?
I go to bed maybe, and that's the other thing. I go to bed now maybe about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, right? So I'm not doing 12 o'clock at night, whatever the case may be. What am I saying? I'm saying that to answer your question, my ability to stay consistent and manage it is just identifying the idea that if I'm being rewarded, I want to continue to be rewarded. And that's the beauty of being disciplined, is that once you get a taste of that reward, it's something that's delightful, and you always want to continue to remain in that.
Yeah, and that reward won't only come from you. And when we can head off on that, because I had the goal of going to the gym for a certain goal. Now when I'm getting compliments from other people, or people are seeing my results, I feel even more encouraged to maintain that. That idea of I'm never gonna miss 3 days a week of going to the gym.
Right.
So I like that.
Yeah, man. Like even with that, like when I'm in the gym, I see the same people there at the same time every single day.
Yeah, and it's like it's like culture.
Yeah, because it's not even just the culture. It's like we're all here because we have the same mindset. Like nothing's gonna get in our way of achieving this specific goal. Yeah. So seeing the same people there reminds me, like, oh, I'm on the right track, because if I wasn't on the right track, I'd be seeing different people. But because I'm on the right track, I'm seeing the same people, because we're all on the same track.
I like that.
You see what I'm saying? So, man. I mean, all in all, like, it's about the idea of believing in who you are and who God called us to be as individuals, believing who He said we are in the Scripture, and acting on it. You know, so
I appreciate that, man, bro.
Yeah, man.
It was a pleasure to have you on today, man.
Yeah, man. That was a great conversation, man.
Definitely, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate it. And at the end of the day, my name is Olivier J. Darcys. I'm with my man, Wasi.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
My man Feel Good. My man Drop Wisdom.
Yeah.
And we're here helping you do to do life well.
Yes.
Peace.
Peace out.